Last week it was the high banks of Charlotte Motor Speedway. This week, well, it's a racetrack that these Lotus 49s are very familiar with. It was a close race to the end with Valentejus taking it by mere hairs of a second, but I think that this one, it might be close, but not as close. This is Watkins, Glen, and this is Grand Prix Legends Lotus 49. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching us here on the Global Sim Racing channel. My name is Jeremy Scott alongside Joey Atterbury. Joey, this is such a great historic track, and the layout that we have this weekend, it was basically made for these Lotus 49s.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty fun layout with that vintage style of circuit with these Lotus 49 machines, and yeah, I can't wait to see what the action is going to bring us here at Watkins, Glen.
Of course, with the vintage layout means no boot. So where you would normally turn right on the back straightaway to use the bus stop chicane, I meant no boot, but no bus stop chicane, it's just going to be a straightaway right into that fast right-handed corner. And of course, let's take a look at the rest of the facility with our GSRC track overview.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
So Joey, one thing that I love about this car and track combination is because of the lack of aerodynamics in the 49, we're going to see a lot of drifting through the corners.
Drifting and drafting is what we're going to be ready for here at these Lotus 49s, and you see we are racing that vintage style of circuit here at Watkins Glen, so only 7 turns in total. Still lots of elevation. The lowest point on the circuit here is going to be turn number 1. From there, it's going to be that uphill climb through the S's. Remember, like you heard Jeremy say, no bus stop, no chicane, no whatever you want to call it up there. So you're going to be flat out up and over those bumps. That's going to have to be something that drivers are definitely going to have to watch out for, because that is into that brake zone of what is turn 5, and these cars are going to be hauling the mail through there. Watch out for the exit at turn number 7. Jeremy, you mentioned the word drifting. These drivers are going to be standing on the gas coming out of turn number 7 there. You don't want to smack the wall on exit.
No, especially because several years ago, remember, there was that runoff there in turn number 7, so that's kind of no longer there. The safer barrier is out there to catch you. Lots of places that are very inviting for a car that decides to drift a little bit too far sideways. And of course, Joey, I know you've turned a lot of laps here, so this is going to be very interesting to see what happens to this race today, as, again, the classic layout. I'm excited because I know we've got a lot of great drivers here in the Lotus 49 division that know how to wheel a race car.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some of those points championships right here on the screen, as I believe in that F1 driver standings, you had mentioned him to start off the show. Valentejus, he is nearly unstoppable right now. He's got a 27-point lead over Jorge Nieva, but watch out for that driver. Remember, he is a previous champion, so don't ever count him out. Nicola Gacki sitting there in third place, just a about, another 20 points behind Nieva. And then Bill Tyler sitting in fourth. Gary Ho rounding out that top 5. But you notice he's actually tied with John Olson right there. So a good little fight here inside the top 5. Seb Tixier, Kevin Verbruggen, Jason Clapper, and Matt Keane all involved in that top 10. But Jeremy, we also have those F2 driver points as well.
Yeah, and that F2 standing really looking pretty good as well, just as tight as the F1 standings. Roberto Pangrazzi, your leader there, the 137 points, 17 points back is Jonathan Jourdain. And then take a look, 1 point back, Thomas Tuba. So your top 3 separated by 18 points. Oh, by the way, you've got Donald Peake sitting in 4th, 21 points back. Then it's Ben Summers in 5th with 28 points back. Thomas Wilshausen, I should say, with 29 points back. Matt Slinston, 32. So really, from 1st all the way to 8th, we're 9th, I should say, where Essery and Harvney are both 38 points back. Anything can happen here in these next couple of races. You've also got Mitch Heller in the top 10, 59 points back. So a very tight F2 standing. Basically so far this season as the Cup of Nations. You also have Spain leading by a scant 3 points over Lithuania. And 38 points back, you've got the United States, Singapore, the United Kingdom tied for 4th, and Italy in 6th with 82 points in arrears, followed by Australia, Finland, the Netherlands, and Sweden, rounding out your top 10 of the Cup of Nations.
Then today, what we are going to be doing at this upstate New York racetrack is round 7 of 12, 31 laps. Yes, they're going to be doing 31 laps around here. The lap times are about 1:05, 1:07, something like that. An open setup, as always, here in the Vintage Series. So if you want to come and try out your hand at racing one of these Lotus 49s, join the community, join the Discord. I'm sure they're giving out all the fast setups to get everybody up to speed and comfortable with the car. No spare car, speaking of cars. So if you pick up any damage, you're going to have to drive through it out there on the racetrack or come down pit road and get that thing fixed up. Drive-through incident drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, and then a disqualification at 25 incident points out there. So Barney will be watching, but lots of guardrails around Watkins Glen. I don't think the incident points are going to become an issue here today.
No, the guardrails are incident points in and of themselves. So one wrong move, one wrong wheel, and you're basically going to be invited into those blue guardrails. And we're about 2.5 minutes left in this qualifying session as we're setting the field for today's race. Let's go down that back straightaway. There's Valenteus, about 1/10 of a second off the pace. Verbruggen right now your fastest driver. Valenteus at the 106.4 so far in this session. And see what he can do is, the runoff there off of turn 5, Joey, that's going to be utilized a lot because you're carrying a ton of speed with no bus stop.
Absolutely, and I think that the name of the game today is going to be stay in the draft packs, because as long as you can be within that slipstream range coming up the hill, you are usually in a pretty good shot to make a pass. Let's see if Valenteus can steal away that pole position of 106.1. So yes, he will move to the top. That is right now your provisional pole sitter.
Jorge Nieva with a 107.3 on his, we'll call that one the warm-up lap, but he's on his flyer. Going down into turn number 6. Of course, everybody looking to beat Valenteus once again. As Nieva takes, you see that nose dip down, setting up for turn number 7. Barely touches that inside apex. Ooh, almost gets close there on the outside curbing, and he gets a 106.5. So that's going to move him up to 4th place. So a good qualifying effort there.
Yeah, and this is Ove Trengrade with a little bit of, caught him on the back end of the tank slapper coming out of what was turn number 5 here. If we're going by just the turn number. So Trengrade now through the final corner here, gets on the gas nicely, flirts with that wall, but stays off of it. He did not put down a first lap time, so he needs this one to count, and unfortunately for Ove, that one's not going to count either, so not that I see him anywhere. Looks like a top 10 right now at a 107.0. That was the last lap he put down, but of course that did not count.
So Trangrade looks like he's back on it as well, but look at that. That's what we're talking about with this drifting. Little sideways to turn number 4 down the back straightaway. It still looks so weird seeing these cars just totally blow by that bus stop. Now sets up for turn number 5. Again, no time given for Trangrade in that number 10. Although on our timing screen, timing tower, shows him in 9th place, 2 seconds left, and that's going to be it for qualifying, but he can still take solace that was, okay, so it was an extra lap for him as well.
Yeah, he was just trying to get in a little bit of extra practice there right before the checkered flag kind of ended qualifying, and it looks like we do have our official starting grid. Andreas Valente is going to be your pole sitter at a 106.126. Next to him on row number 1 is going to be Kevin Verbruggen in that number 4 car. Mick Claridge lined up in 3rd with Jorge Nieva in 4th. Bill Tyler 5th. Jack David Spickett, JDS as we call him, in 6th. Laust Olsen 7th. Nick Cockey here in 8th. Ove Trangrade in 9th. And Leo Sequeira rounding out your top 10.
As we go to row number 6... it is the number 9, Seb Tixier, then Xavier Sanchez will make up that row. Glenn Becker and Artus Kundelis will be in row 7. JD Rodriguez and Gary Ho make up row number 8. Row 9, Temiladri, that's Pedro Temiladri and John Olson. Then it's Ricardo Martinez and Roberto Pangrazzi sitting in 20th.
21st sees Matt Keane and then Aku Liski next to him in 22nd. Jeff Saunders, 23rd, with Ben Zocco, the guy who burns it down after every race, in 24th. Jem Matson, 25th, with Robert Plumley, 26th. Kyle Ridley, 27th. Kurt Clapper, 28th. Juan Rodriguez, 29th. And Eric Essery in 30th.
Row 16 is Michael Grisinger, then Matthew Maudsley, Donald Peak, and Santiago Frega make up row 17. Row 18, Ray Oliver, Ben Summers, Guillermo Diaz, and Tobias Varney make up row 19. Row 20, Jacob Flory and Thomas Tuba.
And then 9 more here back here. Babris Mavrakis here in 41st. Philip Savage, 42nd. Jason Clapper, 43rd. Thomas Willershausen, 44th. Mats Linden, and then we've got Diaz, Exposito, Schatz, as well as McGee is going to round out 49 cars here, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars anywhere, especially here at Watkins Glen, as the field is on the grid right now for this race. Everybody set. We are underway. The lights are out. Green flag is underway. Look at all that. 3, 4, 5 wide. Near the back as we see side-by-side action for second place on back, and I'm seeing lots of places, but look what I'm normally seeing. It's Valenteus all the way near the front.
Yeah, he's already escaped nicely through turn number 1, and now the field has some problems going into turn number 2. Saw one of the cars turned around. That was about, call it 10th or 15th place. I'm sure that's going to cause a huge issue, but now our leaders, single file, and you see the Serpentine down the straightaway. Yeah,
you're going to see that near any point where we're on these straightaways, because these cars, they value the draft. But yeah, that crash almost reminded me of that MX-5 Cup crash that happened a couple of years ago through the S's. Now we're working our way out of turn number 5. So most of the field single file really starting to feel themselves out. I got a couple of battles for about 7th, actually we'll call that 10th on back, as some of the drivers taking the outside line. We got one spinner, as well as the mayhem has really ensued here on this first lap. That is Kaki, who had a good qualifying position, now back in 22nd.
There is 2 of our lead group that definitely went off in that turn at number 6. The first was Kevin Verbruggen, and then you saw Nick Kaki completely spun around. Cold tires first lap, and that is one of the fastest corners on this racetrack. Definitely going to be a danger area and somewhere to watch out for the action all race long here today.
Bill Tyler sitting in 8th place right now in that number 11, trying to catch up to Trangrade, who's in 7th place. You see Trangrade near the front, but look at this battle near the back as well between Tixier and Sanchez in turn number 5. Tixier with the inside through the long sweeping right-hander as they go side by side. Joey, one of the things that I think is going to be key here is if you're sitting there on the inside, you want to make sure that you get that pass done. So not necessarily forcefully getting the driver you're trying to pass in that runoff, but you might want to suggest it there.
Yeah, you need to basically be able to clear them through turn number 5 here, so that way you can get that straight shot through turn 6 and 7 and not have to worry about anybody kind of side by side. So Seb Tixier did a nice job executing that pass on Sequeiro there, and now he's going to look forward to Bill Tyler, who's the car directly in front. But this is our leaders, right? And Valenteus has actually skipped down the road by about 1.2 seconds. The yellow and black car, that's Mick Claridge, and then third place with that orange helmet, the blue car with the number 2 painted on the nose. That's Jorge Nieva, our second place in the points championship. And let's take a look at what happened at turn number 2 on the opening lap. I think I saw maybe JD Rodriguez was caught up in this, as well as Roberto Pengrazi. So good job for JD to hit that reset button immediately, get him off of the track. He knew what was coming down the road.
Yeah, Rodriguez with just getting loose there. That's going to happen in the first couple of laps. Laust Olsen sitting there in 5th place, trying to hold off Verbuggin, who's also trying to make sure that Trengeray doesn't catch up too much. And of course, also you've got Olsen trying to keep up with Spickett. So he's got a battle ahead of him, battle behind him. We're on board with Olsen, looking off the shoulder, the Scandinavian driver going into turn number 1. And we're going to see these fastest laps just pop up lap after lap in the draft. I'm starting to wonder if Valenteus may have too big of a lead too early, because you've got Claridge, Nieva, Spickett, Olsen. They can all hook up and catch up to the leader in the later stages of the race.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah, I think that Valenteus is just kind of his overall pace is going to be able to set him free there. And then there you see Mick Claridge actually give second place to Nieva. I was thinking that Jorge was going to make a move down into turn number 1 this previous lap, because he had such a good run on Claridge down the front straightaway, but didn't opt to make an aggressive move at all. And I think that Mick kind of finally realized it this lap through the S's. Let's see what Nieva's pace has gotten now that he's in clean air, see if he can go kind of hunt down that 1.2 second gap to our leader.
This is the Australian-New Zealand driver Matthew Keane. Lost that 19th position, I should say, as going through turn number 5 right here. And we're going to see a lot of these passes, especially going into your braking zones in turn 1, turn 5. It's going to be a lot of passing. I think if you're in the middle of the pack, you're really going to have to worry about that. Here's Verbuggin trying to hold off Trengeray as we look off the suspension camera. One of the cooler parts of these Lotus 49s, you see the suspension move, and he's going to draft off Olsen as well and try and make that pass in turn 5. Let's hang here and see if he does. Maybe moved off just a little too early, but still able to reel him in turn number 5, and there goes Verbuggin into 5th place.
And you see Ove going to try to follow his way through, but Laus does a nice job to kind of close that door here, see if Trengeray can find a new way around. And of course, we've got to remember that Kevin Verbruggen is actually down a few spots. He was one of those cars that had that huge moment in this corner right here on the opening lap. So I expect that baby blue number 4 to continue that charge. The next name on the list, Jack David Spickett, just up the road, who's putting a ton of pressure on Mick Claridge.
Yeah, JDS trying to move up a spot on that podium. On the podium, I should say, is Claridge with a good qualifying effort, moving him up near the front of the pack. He's in 3rd place, Spickett in 4th. Has lots of jockeying, lots of battling. Drivers using all the track that's there because, dang it, Joey, they paid for all the track.
Yeah, they can use it out here. And remember, this is NASCAR land. So really, as long as the car isn't jumping over any fences or any guardrails out there, I think it is A-OK. And Trengray's still just putting an immense amount of pressure on Laust Olsen. Laust is having a fantastic run. We usually see him towards the front inside the top 10, but he is firmly in this front group right now. And in fact, only about 0.6 of a second back from Kevin Verbruggen. Remember, Kevin just made that pass a couple laps ago, so he's tried to kind of close that gap to this next group. And if anything, Jeremy, I'm noticing something from 2nd all the way back to 13th place now. Every single car separated by less than 1 second.
That's about ready to say. Yeah, we're starting to see that clear definition of Group 1 and Group 2 that we don't normally see this early in the race. You've got Olsen sitting back there in 14th, holding back Becker on back, but Cundless, the caboose in the train, mind you, everybody in that top 13, with the exception of Valenteus, has somebody to race with. But look what I was talking about earlier. I was a little worried that lead that Valenteus had might be a little too big. Well, Nieva's cut that into half. 0.8 of a second now separate your battle for the lead. We're looking off the back of Nieva as he's trying to hold off Claridge, who's trying to hold off Spickett himself.
And I think the big thing here is it's just been on pace alone from Nieva. So don't count out that blue and orange number 2 today. He might have qualified on the second row, but right now he has got the fastest car in the field. The last lap time, 106.4 from Nieva. Valenteus a 106.6. Let's see what they come across this time. 106.5 from our leader. Nieva a 106.3. So another couple tenths taken out of that lead.
Verbruggen once again with the fastest lap. It seems like every lap, because of the draft, he's just logging fast lap after fast lap. So that's good to see here as well. We're watching Jack David Spickett, and look at that speed, 150 miles an hour. Oh, by the way, now you're getting on the back straightaway. Let's see what it gets going into turn 5, because that is one of the fastest parts of the racetrack. And mind you, we're dealing with the Lotus 49, which safety standards, what were those? 180 plus miles an hour going into turn 5.
Yeah, I think I counted 190 plus in some of those cars a little bit further back in the draft. And Trengrade going to try the long way around. He's on the left side of Laust Olsen, but this is going to set him up nicely for what is turn number 6 on this layout. Looks like the number 10 car is finally going to be able to execute that pass, and hopefully he's not too far back behind this next train of cars. I do see 1.9 seconds the gap, but if they start battling, you see the little bit of a distance between this front pack and then the next pack of Trengrade. Hopefully he'll be able to kind of close that in. Watkins Glen is such a draft-heavy track, especially in this form, in this layout here. As long as you can be within that 1.2, 1.1 seconds, you'll slowly start to creep in that gap.
And we're starting to see that gap slowly close in for the battle for the lead. We're still watching on board with Mick Claridge, as he's got a 106.2 his last time by. Now it's down to 0.4 of a second between Valenteus and Nieva. But Claridge trying to do what he can to help get up to that lead. And that gap from 5th to 6th getting a bit bigger as well. Now it's up to 2 seconds. So the first group has kind of split from the original first group as well. Going to be working on lap number 10 here as the field works their way around once again. Nieva, though, once he was able to pass Claridge, I've got to say this, Joey, he was a man on a mission, and he's really showing it here.
I think that all 3 of the drivers that are behind Nieva, and I'm talking about Mick Claridge, Jack David Spickett, and Kevin Verbruggen, they're plenty happy with Nieva's pace. They essentially have been able to attach the fishing line to the gearbox of that number 2 car, and he has dragged them all the way up to Valenteus, our overall leader. So I think they're totally happy to sit in the slipstream, not even bother with his pace. And actually, there's a change of position for what's going to be 4th place. So Verbruggen's going to get by JDS right here without losing any time in that slipstream. So I think that as long as Nieva continues to kind of reel in the leader, these next 3 cars are going to be totally happy to kind of sit here content and then hopefully battle for a win a little bit later.
Claridge getting within 1/10 of a second of Nieva. Thought he was going to pop out for a look there into turn 6, but thinks better of it as this battle here for the top 5 getting really dicey, starting to get a little restless as well. But still plenty of racing left here as we're working lap number 11 across the line. Valenteus, Nieva, Claridge, Verbruggen, and Spickett. Your top 5.
And then, yeah, let's see how the run comes up through the S's here. See if anybody can kind of gain a little bit of advantage through the slipstream. If anything, Mick Claridge was just a little bit out of shape there. Maybe call it half a car width off of the racing line. And you see that blue number 4 slowly start to kind of creep it in. Nobody's quite close enough to make a move, as we see in picture here. Ben Zocco also in the middle of some action here coming up the same part of the racetrack.
And, Joey, that's the problem with a lot of these series. You have great battles up front. Oh, by the way, you've still got plenty of great battles near the back. As you see, Frega also battling for position side by side going into turn number 5 behind him as well. So lots of slicing, lots of dicing, as still, as we said, a lot of racing left. But this battle between Nieva and Claridge really pretty good as well. Jeff Saunders, the UK and Ireland driver, and the number 27 trying to get inside the 22 as well. And a little bit of grass kicked up there. And here's my question to you, Joey. Is this going to be more detrimental for the drivers if there's more dirt there on the entry of especially turn number 7?
I think in real life, yes, for sure. But here in the sim, I think that iRacing has a tendency, especially with kind of the debris update they put in, what was it, maybe a season or a couple seasons ago?
Yeah.
That it's a little bit more visual than it is slippery per se. I always find myself kind of looking at all that debris on track thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be so slippery going in here. And I think that if it was actual gravel, yes, that would be the case. But we kind of have to look at it more of as a visual effect that we see here in the sim.
So this battle for second on back is heating up just a little bit because of that. Valenteus has opened up just a little bit bigger lead. 0.4 of a second separating. Nieva trying to hold off Claridge and Verbugen. Make it back there an interested spectator, as now we're starting to see lap cars. Oh, that was close. As lap traffic's going to play a part now.
Yeah, super close with that lap traffic, and I'm still holding my breath because that second group still has to go through that lap traffic as well. So we saw the first group just narrowly kind of squeak through before turn number 2, and there's some extremely fast corners here at Watkins Glen. That's one of the corners where you got guardrails on both sides. You don't want to run upon lap traffic.
No, you really don't, because the space you have here, it's very limited. But you can't make those passes there in the runoffs, like off of turn number 5. And that would have made life more interesting if we really went classic Watkins Glen instead of the paved runoffs and the gravel traps.
Yeah, and gravel's a whole different world out there, and thankfully we don't get stuck in it here in iRacing. I saw a brief shot of Seb Tixier, who's having a pretty good race himself back there in what is 8th place is Arturas Kundelis on the back end of this 4-car train. He used the lime green machine, that number 6 car, and actually I think that was Leo Sequeiro kind of getting out of shape there in turn number 1. So unfortunately, Sequeiro is going to lose not one, but a couple positions down there just with the momentum. And then I see also, I think that's Gary Ho in that bright purple helmet with that bright purple race car. He's going to look to try to take advantage, but now Leo right back on that slipstream, threatening back on Arturas.
And that's just going to happen when you're in a momentum car with a momentum track. You'll lose 1, maybe 2 spots. We're looking at the cockpit cam of Gary Ho as we watch his onboard at the suspension. Always love seeing what these drivers are using, and a lot of them for this series, using the H-pattern shifter, but also I like the steering wheel. It's kind of a smaller version of what you would see in one of the Lotus 49s.
It is an actual replica wheel, Jeremy. So that is the Lotus 49 wheel. And then, yes, you're right. Gary's using an H-pattern shifter. It's a near identical rig setup to his neighbor, essentially, Seb Tixier. They both have the full motion rigs. They're both using virtual reality. They both have the H-pattern as well as the vintage wheel. So it's really cool that they're both over there essentially in the same neighborhood. If they got problems, they can go over and help each other out with the rig. So Gary Ho and Seb Tixier nearly identical when it comes down to those setups. And oh my goodness, look at this. This is a battle for the lead. Mick Claridge way too wide in turn number 5, but that was almost 3 wide trying to take it away from Valenteus.
Oh, and Valenteus going to shut the door on Nieva. This is the battle that we wanted to see. Nieva, Valenteus, and Verbugen also could be involved here shortly, but now things have calmed down. The Hornet's Nest is less upset as they come out of turn number 5, but once again, Valenteus is led from the drop of the green flag. How much longer will this last? Nieva gets on the brakes. He's not too far away from that gearbox of your leader, the number 1 of Valenteus. But man, that was a move that we didn't think was going to come too soon.
Yeah, we're only halfway through this one. I mean, look over. We're literally smack halfway through this. So I was expecting for these front runners to kind of be a little bit more patient, maybe start everything off at lap 23, lap 25 or so. But here's another good run. And Nieva, I've kind of quoted him the nicest guy in sim racing. He will never force an issue. And he had a huge run once again on that front straightaway, but opted not to do anything with it. It's actually can kind of cause him to put himself into a little bit of trouble scenarios too. When you lift off the gas on the straightaway, you got to look in that rearview mirror. Verbruggen might take advantage.
Well, of course, also Valenteus getting a better exit off of turn number 5. He's going a little wider, a little closer to that wall there in the runoff of 5, so that's given him a little bit more speed, but that unfortunately means the rest of the lap, Nieva's going to try and catch up. Let's see if he can catch up in the spot where he needs to, as Verbruggen looks to the inside of Nieva through turn number 1, as Nieva gets back on the gas right away. But yeah, Verbruggen, he wants a piece of second place because he probably feels that he can get up to Valenteus.
And remember, Kevin qualified on the front row, so he has definitely got the speed to be up there fighting for the lead. Just a little bit of a early little slide there in turn number 6 is kind of what put him on the back foot. But then after that, he's made up all of those positions to find himself back here in a podium position. So don't count out that blue number 4 with that black racing stripe down the center of the car. I think that he might be the dark horse for a possible victory today.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good assessment there, as Claridge really after that wicked move that he tried to make there a couple laps ago, only back to 4th, so he's trying to reel in the rest of the top 3 right there. As, yeah, once again, Nieva loses a bunch of time there off of turn number 5, and one has to wonder when he realizes, it might be a good idea to follow Andreas's line coming out of 5, because that's where I'm losing a whole bunch of space.
Sometimes the drivers will pick up on it. Sometimes they're stubborn and in their ways on how they like to drive the racetrack. But this end of it, it certainly seems like Nieva's got a really nice flow, call it exit of turn number 2, all the way up through the S's. And I know that he gets the benefit of the slipstream, but I think that's by far his best area of the racetrack, and almost contact between the two through what I call the carousel through here at Watkins Glen. Nieva thought he could make his car fit in a half a car width space, quickly found out that wasn't a good idea.
Drivers? Stubborn? Never, as we're still watching on board with Verbruggen. Now he's got 2 drivers a little bit closer behind him, because this battle for the lead is just going all over the place. As we said last time by, near contact between Valenteus and Nieva. As we dive into turn 1, go deep and then go right. They have that dip through turn number 1 and onto the exit curbing of heading into turn number 2. Once again, Verbruggen trying to do what he can to get into second place. Now let's give Valenteus about a half-second gap, as Claridge has also decided to enter into the picture. He takes a look to the inside, now takes a look to the outside. Verbruggen does the right thing, goes to the inside because he wants to defend and get that additional place. But we're side by side for 3rd place, as Claridge has it by a nose. Verbruggen, though, gets back on the gas to take that 3rd position back.
Mick Claridge being aggressive. I never would have thought I've seen it. And yes, that is a joke. One of the most aggressive drivers we've got here in the 49s. Remember, he was one of the drivers that took it 3 wide a handful of laps ago and just got out way too wide. And then his speed has kind of brought him right back into this podium fight here, threatening 3rd place on Verbruggen directly in front of him as well. So don't count out Mick Claridge. He's always one of the fastest and, of course, one of the most winning drivers here in the Lotus 49s. But nice run through turn number 1 that time for Kevin. The meat in the sandwich as we check back here on Arturas Kundelis here in this lime green machine.
Yeah, Kundelis, he's got Olsen ahead of him, Tyler to the back of him, as battle for 9th and battle for 10th taking place. Takero not too far away either, and he's also in position. And here's the battle for 3rd place once again. Has got a slower car. No, that is Valteus who almost lost it in turn 5. So this battle for third has turned into a tight battle for first.
Yeah, so Mick Claridge was making a move on position number 3, but while that was going on, Valteus just simply blew the brake zone going into what is turn number 5 here at this racetrack. So he had kind of built himself a little bit of a buffer between him and Nieva, and now that is completely gone. And then the other thing that's changed, that yellow car, Mick Claridge finds himself in third.
Well, Valteus showing us that, yes, he is indeed human as he makes a slight mistake through turn number 5. Let's give it the top 5 close to within each other. I do see a car that is about to go one lap down as well through the S's, so we'll see how much longer that happens and if that will affect this battle for the lead. We've seen everything closed up, and just got word that Laust Olsen got a slowdown penalty, so he is now down to 11th. He's lost 2 positions. Oh, looks like we have not just 1 but 2 cars that are set to be one lap down, and we've seen how much it can be a pain, especially in those areas where that guardrail's up against the track.
And going by one of those lap cars right now that you had just mentioned, looks like this first pack of leaders was able to navigate that successfully, no issues there. And ever since that little tiny mistake that we saw last lap out of Valteus, I mean, he has put the afterburners on and absolutely taken off. That last lap time, 106.4, faster than anybody behind him. And you see Mick Claridge just go as deep as possible into turn number 1, defend from Verbruggen directly behind him. So all these cars, they're saying it's time to go. Let's go real fast, and let's go right now.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing Claridge trying to keep Verbruggen behind and Nieva trying to get around as well. But that's just gonna be the name of the game in turn number 1 as we watch Claridge see what he has to do to break the draft of the cars behind him. Won't get on the brakes is one of them as they go around turn number 5. And this is kind of a rarity too, Joey. There's a little bit of contact there as Verbruggen's going to lose a little bit of space and possibly 4th place as well after that contact with Claridge. But I was going to mention real quick, Valteus actually opened up gap in turn number 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if Valteus is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. He's so good up at the front there. But talking about that little bit of an incident we saw in turn number 5 there, Mick Claridge had his inside wheels on the grass, and I actually think he lifted to not kind of get any oversteer loose moment there in that set of corners, and that's actually what caused Verbruggen to almost kind of collect into the back of him. And there we see just a lapped car getting in the way that separates Mick from Kevin a little bit on the racetrack.
Well, you saw the replay, Ricardo Martinez with an off in turn number 5 made contact with the wall, and the wheel decided it did not want to be a part of a 4-way battle. It decided, well, you know, you're good with 3. So Martinez looks like he is out of the race with just 3 wheels. Still have this battle up near the front, and of course also this battle off the top 10. It's a Carroll off course going into turn number 5. That's not what you want to do, as the grass going to have a lot less cohesion than the pavement, so he loses 2, maybe 3 spots as the number 7 tucks back into Ho in the number 13. He's going to try and make it at least 1 more of those spots.
Check in with Glenn Becker back here in the number 23. This is always one of my favorite painted cars out here because it's painted just like that aerobatic airplane that he likes to go fly around, that Pitts Special. I think that I even saw him collect another one of those recently, so pretty cool to see that livery be incorporated out here in the virtual world. And Glenn right now doing a good job hanging out inside the top 15. He's got some pressure though. That's that blue car of John Olsen in his mirror.
Always nice to see the racing world and the airplane world kind of cohese into one another. So you see those 2 mix, and I think those will actually look good on those Lotus 49 paint schemes. Becker making his way around turn 5 once again. At the line, it'll be 7 laps to go. So a lot of go time left for some of these drivers as they try and sort themselves out. Look at Nieva closing in to under 0.2 of a second on Valenteus. We're on board with the driver from Iberia. He looks to the inside. Valenteus goes just a little bit deeper on the brakes. So Nieva's going to lose some gap there, but still plenty of time left. Of course, anything can happen here at this track. Lots of great braking zones through the S's. Once again, Valenteus opens up a gap. And of course, we've also gotten picture-in-picture Claridge right behind Nieva. Claridge with a great showing this week, sitting in third place.
See how feisty this is going to get. Mick is going to force the issue around the outside here. Nieva with a huge snap of oversteer. Contact between the two. Claridge finds himself into the tire wall. Oh, man, I didn't want to forecast that one, but sometimes when you try to stick it around the outside, you're putting yourself in a great bit of danger.
I'll call that the announcer's curse on that one on my end, but yeah, they had the feeling that they were fixing to get bent. Now Spickett and Verbruggen with a battle for third. Here's a replay, Joey.
It was just a forced issue from Mick Claridge, and he has the right to do it, right? He was all the way up alongside. He used the draft. Nieva actually lifted off the draft not to run into the back of our leader, so a little bit of a stack-up. Claridge was trying to take advantage, but just inherently, one of the risks around running that outside line is what happens if the car loses traction on the inside? They've got nowhere to go other than slide into you. That's simply what happened.
And of course, with a lack of aerodynamics, and you really can't plant the car down, as we see Tixier trying to hold off Trangerade for fifth place. Good showing by Trangerade as he made his way through the middle of the top 10 right there, but Tixier about lost it there going into turn 5, trying to hold off him and about 2 other cars behind him.
And this is actually Seb going up through the field, so he had just made the pass on Trangerade for what is a top 5 position, and we don't speak about Seb up at the front too much anymore. He's had some incredibly bad luck last season and then just kind of getting back into the swing of things as well. So I'm really happy to see this blue number 9 out there on the racetrack. And not only that, but plus 6 positions. He's hanging out inside the top 5 right now. Yeah, he's got 4.5 seconds to our front group where he usually is, but he is on it today, and it's great to see this performance out of him once again.
It really is, and we're watching his cockpit cam as well, using the VR. And yeah, I've talked to some sim racers, and a lot of them are going from the multi-screen to the VR. For those who aren't familiar with it, Joey, what is the big difference between the two? Obviously, you've got the screen closer to you in the VR, but why would you use a VR over a triple screen?
I think that virtual reality provides a lot more immersion. I've used all of them between the ultra wides, the triples, the virtual reality. I think that the best way to explain VR is it's just like putting the helmet on and then all of a sudden you're transported inside the race car. But I will say, though, if you're trying to be a quote-unquote pro, a professional in the esports world, you don't see very much virtual reality. I think the latency is just a little bit more than what you can kind of get out of these really nice monitors and the refresh setups that they've got. So I think that VR, great immersion factor, and if you want to feel like you're in a race car, that's what you need.
Tyler holding off secure as we have a replay here of Jack David Spickett in the lead group, and well, decides that a little too fast coming into turn number 1. You don't really want to do that.
Loses a ton of track position, too. He's now 3.3 seconds behind our lead group as we see Leo try to make his way back through the field. Remember, we've seen a couple mistakes out of that white and red number 7 car, but he seems to have got it hooked back up on the railroad tracks. And speaking of another one of those drivers that's had a similar race, that yellow and blue car, that's Laust Olsen. Remember, he was up there running well inside the top 10, but has kind of slipped his way back to 11th place. He's trying to get his way around that white and blue number 11 of Bill Tyler, try to salvage a top 10 out of this today.
And that's exactly what you want to do, have that top 10, because it's such a big field with so many cars here. You want to make sure you get that top 10, and I think it's going to be more validated today that you had such a great race. Here's the battle for second place. Nieva and Verbruggen as they go down the back straightaway. Not close enough to make anything happen, but we've seen some desperate attempts in turn 5 several times today. As Trangerade tries to get Tixier for 5th place, or side by side, as Tixier has that inside line. And Kundelis also wants a part in that as he goes a little high, and he's going to open the door for Sanchez as well. So we got 2 great battles going on here.
Let's see what happens in turn number 6. Trangerade's fully up alongside, but Tixier is not going to back out of this one. He closes the door on Uwe right there. So nice job to defend that 5th place position. But you're right, Jeremy. Watch out for that number 6 car. That's that lime green machine. Kundelis looks probably the most aggressive out of the bunch. And then also Xavier Sanchez, he just joined the party. That's Heike360 over there on Twitch. I'm sure he has given all of his fans a nice show this morning.
Tixier got a little close to that pit wall there. Yeah, it's interesting to see how that happened. 2 laps ago, so this battle really going to tighten up here in the next couple of laps. As battle for 2nd place goes on. Nieva trying to hold off Verbruggen for 2nd place. They're side by side. The Verbruggen with the nose, but Nieva, he's just going to let him have it. I think it might be too little too late, though, as Valenteus now 1.1 seconds up ahead. Up top, you've got this wonderful battle for 6th place, and now Kundelis trying to get into 7th place.
This is a little bit of redemption for Kevin Verbruggen right here as they round turn number 7. Our leaders just in front, taking the white flag right now. So 1 lap to go here in the 49s at Watkins Glen. Can Kevin Verbruggen hold off Jorge Nieva for what is 2nd place? I was going to say a little bit of a redemption here for Kevin after making that opening lap mistake. Finds himself exactly where he qualified.
And of course, Valenteus also having to deal with some lap traffic here in the final corners of this race. I saw probably 2 slower vehicles up ahead of him. But a little wiggle there out of Nieva as he tries to get a run on Verbruggen as they come down to turn number 5. You're on board with the number 4 driver as Nieva is going to go high, wide, and handsome around turn number 5. They're still side by side. Did Nieva learn what he could from Valenteus? No, they almost banged wheels in the middle of the corner, but moved Nieva to 2nd place.
Oh my goodness, can he hang on to it for 2 more corners? You saw our leader just a couple car lengths in front, but the battle is for what is 2nd place right here. As long as Nieva can hang on through the final corner, Valenteus accelerates out of turn number 7. A victory once again for the number 1 car.
Much larger than you saw last week, and Nieva gets second. No, Verbruggen. Is it Nieva or Verbruggen? Because I'm seeing both. We'll call it Nieva there as your winner, as your 2nd place driver at the line. Verbruggen sits in 3rd place. Spigot in 4th, and Tixier holds on to 5th with Sanchez moving up to 6th.
What a finish here as we watch the rest of the cars come across that start-finish line. Ben Zocco right in the middle of this battle right here, coming out of the final corner. He's in that number 16. Big-time power slide. Can he hang on? Jason Clapper is going to try to get to the line before him. Can he hang on to it? I'm not sure. I think it was actually Jason Clapper that stole away 17th place there by 6 1/1000ths of a second at the line.
God, so many good finishes as Maudsley comes down to the line in 22nd place in that number 30. So lots of great finishes, but Valenteus, gotta say this. Biggest lead he had was about 2 seconds. At the end of the race, was able to get to 1.5 seconds there at the line. Let's take a look at the finishing order here as we're still trying to compile it as the field is working through the rest of the race. You have 40 plus cars on the track at one time, and yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of different results. Andres Valenteus, your winner there. Jorge Nieva, Kevin Verbruggen at the line finishes 3rd. Jack David Spigot 4th. That's Sepp Tixier, Xavier Sanchez, Ove Trangerade, followed by Arturas Kundelis, Leo Sicaro, and Bill Tyler, rounding out your top 10.
And then Laust Olsen unfortunately slips down to 11th today. Nick Cockey, also kind of a similar story, finishing in 12th. Glenn Becker, 13th, right where he qualified. John Olsen, 14th. Aku Liski, nice run up to 15th. Kyle Ridley, 16th. Jason Clapper is going to be our biggest mover today, plus 26 positions to finish in 17th. Benzoko 18th. Robert Plumley 19th. Jeff Saunders in 20th.
As we take a look at 21st on down to 30th, Eric Asari, then Matthew Maudsley in 22nd, 23rd, Thomas Tuba. Last of the lead lap runners, Ben Summers in 24th. Then from a lap down on back, it's Gary Ho, Thomas Willerhausen, Tobias Savarni. Then it's Matt Linden, Matthew Keene, and Ray Oliver.
Then back here is just some cars that unfortunately a couple laps down or did not finish. That includes Flory, Diaz, Claridge, who ran up front for a while, Rodriguez, Clapper, Temaladri, Martinez, Mavrakis, Savage, and Grissinger. We've got one more page here, but unfortunately, a lot of these cars did not finish today's race. That includes Peak, Frega, Exposita, Schatz, Matson, Diaz, Rodriguez, Pingrazi, and McGee.
So 49 cars started this race, and a lot of them just did not finish. But that is the nature of Watkins Glen, especially the classic course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that attrition rate is always going to be an issue, especially with these Lotus 49s. Remember, they're pretty fragile out here, so any sort of contact and you're going to be picking up that damage. I think we saw about 35-ish cars finish out of 49 cars that started today's race. And out of those cars that did finish, I thought we had a phenomenal bit of action out there. It kind of seemed that we had 3, maybe even 4 draft packs going for the entire race distance.
Well, of course, we also saw, one huge lead draft pack there in the first couple of laps. And then we saw that separation. I think we saw the separation a little earlier than I thought we were going to, maybe by a couple of laps. But yeah, there were a lot of great draft packs, and this track was going to create those, which we're not too surprised on that.
Draft packs are always going to be part of Watkins Glen. I think the only thing that goes hand in hand with Watkins Glen, other than drafting, is maybe severe thunderstorms out there. So thankfully we didn't have any of those here this morning. A nice, clean, sunny race for what was 32 laps around this upstate New York racetrack, and a great way to cap it off too. I mean, Valenteus, pole sitter, led every single lap, but wasn't immune from those mistakes. We saw him take it in deep a couple times out there, but ultimately was able to hang on to it.
Well, we have one finisher here in this race, on the podium, I should say, to talk to right now. Let's welcome in Jorge Nieva. First of all, I've got to say this. That was a fantastic battle you had there for second place, getting that just at the line. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really exhausting. I didn't expect this track to make me sweat like this, but I'm full of sweat right now.
I was going to say, yeah, you had such a great battle there trying to keep up with Valenteus and holding several drivers back. Talk us through that.
Well, I thought I could start with a little bit less of fuel than others because I expected a race behind a lot of other cars, so I thought I could save some fuel, but in the end there was only one car in front of me. He was really fast. I was struggling to follow Audius, and I couldn't save almost anything, so I crossed the finish line with the car already being slower because I was out of fuel. But Kevin lifted up because I think he thought I was letting him by, but so he lifted, and it was really hard to follow Audius.
As you say, you were saving fuel, yet you were still up near the front. So what you're saying is, had you not saved fuel, you might have had more for Valenteus there.
I don't think so. I wanted to save fuel, but I couldn't do it because I wanted to follow Audius. So with the lapped cars or some little mistake by him, I could try to overtake, but I couldn't save almost half of what I wanted.
Well, congratulations, a fantastic race. Anyone you want to thank?
Well, thank you guys at GSRC. I love your stream, so thank you guys.
Jorge Nieva, your second place finisher in today's race. Joey, who you got coming up?
Yeah, I think we got Kevin Verbruggen joining us. Kevin, first of all, nice job on the podium finish here today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had some pace this week and found a good setup, and it paid off this time.
And a little bit of redemption because lap number 1 kind of caught you out there towards the end of the lap, and then you were able to drive it right back up into those podium positions.
Yeah, that's true. I got caught out a bit by the cold tires at the start of the session. The session was a lot colder at the start of the race than in the rest of the weeks. And especially when it's Audrey as ahead, you do not want to you don't want to give him any little advantage. Unfortunately, that did give him a little bit of a gap for a large part of the race, and it took a little bit for the rest of the guys to catch up, but in the end we did, and we had a good race.
I was going to ask you, let's kind of throw away that mistake on lap number 1. Let's say if you had the track position, did you feel like you had the confidence and the speed to potentially take that win away from Valenteus?
The win would have been a tough call. I've noticed I've had a bit of a trouble, like actually fully getting by people, but yeah, definitely the podium and second place felt within reach. Maybe just if I got a good run out of the chute on the last or second to last lap, I could have held it, but it's good to be back in the front again for a couple of races now, since I've had a bit of a bad run at the start of the season and at the end of last season. So yeah, good to be back up here.
I'll echo that. It's great to see you back up at the front, and not only that, but being racy up at the front. You were trying to make those moves. You were nice and clean out there. You were in the thick of it for the majority of the race. So awesome to see you back up here. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give out a shout out to my colleague Philippe, who is apparently watching the races and enjoys them a lot. So I thank you guys for providing the stream.
Well, that was Kevin Verbruggen fighting his way back to a 3rd place finish here today, Jeremy.
Yeah, that was great. And of course, one driver we were talking a lot about here in the race was Mick Claridge. Mick, first of all, what a fantastic race you had, running up near the front. Great going today. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a crazy race. But it was good, and it was sort of annoying. My car wasn't really good at the start of the race. So I think it was Kevin was in front of me, wasn't he? And he went wide in the left-hander coming to the end of the lap. And so I got around Kevin, but then there was a gap to Aldrius, and I thought this is going to open up because my car's terrible at the start of the race. It's just too loose going up the hill. But then it warms up and it starts biting on the rear end up the hill there, which is what you want. And so I let Jorge through just to see if he could catch Aldrius. So he did. And then it was just, we was like just sitting in line, and I was like, yeah, come on, Jorge, now, go for it now. Come on. And he wouldn't. I don't know if he would or he couldn't. He said he couldn't catch him in the chat post race, which is fair enough, And then, and I just thought, oh no, this is it. I've had enough of this, and just went for that pass around the outside of the carousel, and that was it. That's happened twice now this week. We had so many wrecks this week, mate. I tell you, Jorge's crashed me out. He crashed me out yesterday in the same corner. I crashed Aldrius out midweek in another race. It was all lining up to be like one crazy race, and it weren't. It was quite calm, wasn't it? It was a shame, really.
I was going to say, yeah, it was for as many groups of draft partners that we had, it was a pretty tame race. We'd have every once in a while somebody would do something in turn 5 or, have some sort of strange contact. But yeah, for the most part, it was a pretty calm race. But really, if you look on paper, you see 34th. That doesn't tell the whole story because, as we said, you ran up near the front. You're able to keep up with the leaders. But there was no catch in Valenteus, it seems like. That seems to be the common theme that we have. And you're kind of confirming that. I think the only way you could take him out is to literally take him out.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we're dealing with a guy who's pro level, and he doesn't want to drive the pro cars. He doesn't want to get involved in that, which is great, because we've got like one of the best drivers on the service who we've got to fight every week. You obviously know what he does in the IMSA Vintage as well. He'll just go in there. The guy astounds me with how much little practice he needs. So he'll literally turn up just before the Wednesday race, and he'll be on the pace of the leaders. We'll have a good fight, but he'll be on pace, and then slowly. And then this is what happens when we get to Saturday. He gets a little bit more speed, and he's a bit untouchable, you know. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we've had so many pro guys come in over the years. We've had Jamie Fluke come in. We've had a guy called Nick Lindquist, who was serious Gregor Hutu level driver, and Aldris is on that level. He really is. I'm quite proud of myself if I can ever keep up with him.
It seems like anyone who has really steps up to the level. But like I said, Mick, congratulations, 34th. Really doesn't tell the tale on how well of a race you had. Is there anyone you want to thank?
Oh, I want to thank, who do I want to thank? I want to thank everyone. Everyone on the whole planet and other planets too.
Mick, thanks for joining us, and what a great way to end the interviews.
Cheers, mate.
It's Joey. It seems like the common theme is if Andreas Valenteus is in the field, you got to figure out how to get around him because he ain't going to make it easy.
That's the story of winning one of these Lotus 49 races. If you think you can come out here and dethrone the champ, you're going to have to beat Valenteus out here.
Well, that does it for all of us here for the Watkins Glen round. As this broadcast basically done and dusted. Joey, any final thoughts as the Lotus 49 goes to one of my favorite road courses, Barber Motorsports Park, next week?
I look forward to closing out the rest of the season. What, we got about 5 more of these to go, so can't wait to see it and how it all wraps up.
Yeah, Barber Motorsports Park will be next week, May 10th, 13:30 UTC, 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time for those of you on the American coast. Of course, stay tuned here to GSRC. We're not done with our broadcast day yet, and coming up next is the IMSA Vintage Series on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That will end the broadcast day for GSRC, but tomorrow, got some Snetterton action with Skip Barber Racing School at 9 UTC, 5 Eastern Daylight Time. Major Series. Don't know what they're going to be racing, but we know they're going to be racing around the oval, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's Sunday morning on the East Coast, Sunday afternoon over in the Isles, and Classic Lotus GP also on the streets of Long Beach. So once again, Joey Atterbury, my partner, thanks for joining us. Christian Deploy making us look and sound good, and of course the camera's provided by Dougie Beard. My name is Jeremy Scott. Thanks for joining us. Keep it off the walls, and we'll see you next week and next time here on GSRC.